The film is going?
Yes.
All right. Well, we're here again for story time, and this time we got special guest Hotrodhoarder. He happened to be over at my house today to video some of my car collection here, so you gotta go check his channel out and see that. But today we're gonna talk about a little bit of the history between me and him. So we met in auto body school when we were like 18?
18 years old, so that would have been 2004.
Right.
When I started over there. You'd actually already started.
Like a semester or so before?
Yeah, a few months before. So you were already acclimated. I was the new guy. And yeah, it didn't take long for us to start getting into stuff.
Right, yeah. And everybody thought that he didn't like have a cool car or anything. He was just talking, and then he shows up to school in a '64 Corvette and a Harley and all that stuff. So we all thought he didn't have all this stuff, that it was just all fake. He was talking about having these cars. But yeah, he actually did show up with them.
To go a little further with that, we do have a tendency, he and I, to find, or maybe they find us, people who just absolutely BS. Like,
right.
They just tell you a big long story.
What is Rocky choking on back there?
Vine went down the wrong way.
Yeah, people tell you a big story about junk that they say they have at the house.
Yeah, or like a car that pops a wheelie on the street or makes 1,000 horsepower. It seems like we tend to run into those guys a lot.
We definitely do, but we've been on a lot of different adventures together, going and looking at cars and going to shows. But he had, what year was your S10?
95.
So he had a 95 S10, and I had a 64 Nova, and his was a 4-cylinder 5-speed. Mine was a 6-cylinder 3-speed in the floor. I put it in the floor, and we would basically every day when we left, we went down the same road, and right in the middle of town, we would race each other every day. But no one really knew we were racing because our cars were so slow. They were just bone stock, 20-something second quarter-mile, 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder cars.
Yeah, and I think it was just the timing of the red lights there near school. I mean, it was basically every day. It was kind of unpredictable too. The cars were so evenly matched, so slow.
Exactly the same speed.
It really just depended on who could shift the best.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish we had a count on who won the most.
Yeah.
It'd be great to know who actually had the most wins. But he got a lot of wins and I got a lot of wins because, you know, if I missed a shift or something, he would get me. Or if he missed a shift, I would get him. But we had a lot of fun with that. We raced some Mustangs against each other on the road.
That was a good race. I wish that we had phones and GoPros and all that kind of stuff then, because that would have been a good thing to show in this video. But you had a car that was 8th mile. I had 920 8th mile, so we were a full second apart.
Yeah.
But it was door to door on a skinny back road, completely dark. And during the race, I mean, it was, I don't even remember who technically won, but when I let off the gas, I looked in my mirror and it was completely dark. I couldn't see his headlights, couldn't see anything. It was just like the car disappeared. You had some kind of electrical problem.
Oh yeah. The headlights would randomly go out in the car. So cars that I should have been a second ahead of you, and we were not. We were just door to door with each other. It was a great race.
That's the fun of street racing, is it kind of equalizes slow cars and fast cars. You can go have some fun, even if you don't have something that is going to impress anybody at the racetrack.
Right. But also, he got to ride in my Maverick several times, with the Maverick with it being 4-cylinder and with it being big block.
Yeah, and it was pretty exciting with the 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
Maybe it was something to do with the fact that it was a 5-speed and you were banging gears.
It was pretty quick as a 4-cylinder.
It was fun and fast, but the big block, it was intense, like I'm probably not going to survive sort of way. And some of those rides we went on, whether it was on a little skinny road or on the highway or whatever, it was scary because the car
did this the whole way.
The car twisted because it had a big block and a big turbo, and hardly anything tying the subframes.
It had no subframe connectors. It had none of the normal stuff you would do. It was stock rear axle, stock leaf spring car. It was a handful to drive for sure.
Yeah. So that car ran 660s.
It went 660 at 106. Yeah, and then the LTD wagon went 650 at 110 or 11, something like that.
Yeah. So the difference in riding in those two cars was drastic. Even
Right.
though it was only a tenth faster,
Right.
the Maverick actually felt faster.
Oh yeah, the
because
Maverick.
It was like out of control, and you know the back end was trying to pass up the front end.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
having a big block or big cubic inch car, even if they're not faster, they're definitely more fun to drive. The torque that you feel with a big block turbo car is crazy, and it was definitely some sketchy passes in the Maverick out on the street. Because I would drive that car out there and make pulls on it, and I would take I had a Innovate Motorsports wideband. I would take 2 kitchen spatulas and tape those to it, and then tape those to my handheld camcorder and video, because I had no data logging at the time. Make a pull on the street and go back home and watch the video to see what the air fuel ratios were. So there was a lot of street pulls in that probably weren't as safe as they should have been, but it was a crazy car to take people out and let them ride in it, for sure.
So speaking of taking people for rides, my dad gave you a ride in the
Oh,
Corvette.
yeah.
Now, when we were teenagers, when we met, I was not exactly confident in going out and just ripping on that Corvette because it was an expensive car. My dad gave it to me. You know, it's kind of like a part of our family, so I didn't want to go out and just kill it. And if I had been irresponsible with it, it would have ended up in a ditch somewhere.
Right.
But anyways, I took you for a ride in it, just maybe like first and second gear.
Right.
And you ended up over at my house for something, and my dad was always kind of bragging about it and wanting to give people rides in the Corvette.
This
At
one
that
it was
time,
a 4-speed.
It had an old school 4-speed in it. It had a blower on it. It was a pretty good running car for the street, and it's low geared and lightweight, so it's exciting. And so my dad gave you a ride in it, and obviously it's a Corvette, so I didn't get to ride with them. So I'm just kind of hanging out at the house, waiting on them to come back. And they were gone for a few minutes, the typical 5 or 10 minutes of an exciting ride.
Yeah.
Well, I hear it coming up the road, coming up the back way where our house is, and it was really struggling to run, laboring real hard.
I think what was it, hung up in 4th or something?
Yeah, and it ended up being that it was hung up in 4th gear. It would not come out of 4th gear, and it broke something in the transmission. We actually never took that transmission apart. It's still sitting on the shelf.
Oh, you still have it?
Yeah, that was the original M21
No,
4-speed.
you gotta take it apart.
Sitting on the shelf. It could be something really simple, but we don't know. But my dad had beat on that car for 17 or 18 years before that.
Yeah.
Literally every time it rolled out onto the road, it was just getting beat on, and had never broke the rear end, had never broke the transmission, really hadn't had that many engine problems, but that day.
Until I sat in it.
Yeah. So that was actually a good thing with that car. It allowed me to start putting some attention into it and doing my own thing with it. So I eventually put a 5-speed in it, and that made it to where I could drive it a little bit longer distance. But that really started the process of making changes on it, including taking the blower off and making it more reliable.
Yeah. What about doing donuts and burnouts behind goodies?
That's probably at the top of my list as far as memories, because we did it so often.
Almost every day.
Yeah, so at tech school we'd have break time, and technically you weren't really supposed to leave the school. It's just like a 10 or 15 minute break, but just kind of around the corner from the school was like a few little department stores, and you could drive right in behind them.
It had a huge parking lot back.
Yeah,
And no one was ever in.
So we just felt like that was totally okay for us to go back there and do donuts every day. So depending on what we were driving, my S10 wouldn't do donuts because of the single action rear wheel. That
peg leg.
Yeah, would not do a very good donut. But the Nova did some good donuts.
Yeah.
The Turbo Coupe was really
spot on donuts.
Donut machine.
And I got to where I could kind of drift it a little bit, and I would try to do donuts and then drift out of the side of the parking lot with it.
Yeah, again, we didn't have smartphones or cameras or
No
anything to
video
document
of it.
this, but we got the memories, so I guess that's the important part.
It would have been neat to have, have YouTube at the time and been able to have editing skills.
Yeah, we'd be millionaires by now.
We wouldn't have to work anymore if we had all those videos of all the cool stuff. We went out. You went with me, and when we got that Model T too. we went back to get the Model T because we broke down the side of McMinnville on the side of the mountain.
That is one of our greatest stories, and I'd actually forgotten about that.
We were both pregnant.
Yeah.
Had 2 pregnant wives in a Ford F-250 or 350.
And how many kids did we have in the car? 2?
I think I had him because he was a baby.
Yeah, so I think we had 2 kids, 2 pregnant wives, and then us 2 in an extended cab F-250.
Yeah.
We went and got a Model T center-door sedan out of a barn warehouse building in Manchester, Tennessee, and then we broke down in McMinnville on top of the mountain, and
it was hot.
it was like
summertime,
July,
no air
August or
conditioning.
something.
Yeah.
No, it was terrible. They were pregnant. It was bad. And then we burned up a U-joint, and my buddy Josh came and brought me a new U-joint. It was wrong.
Yeah.
And all of us, including Josh, got in his F-350. You know, there's like way more people than seatbelts in there. And we went and got the correct U-joint and something to drink, I believe, and came back and put that in with the handle out of my jack. We put a new U-joint in, got back home. But we got a complete Model T center door sedan that was just in a million pieces in this warehouse, and brought it back, and never made a single video about that car ever.
No video of that experience, no pictures, other than just memories. And I don't want to say I forgot about that, but when you were mentioning Model T, I was like,
What Model T?
what Model T? Like, we've had so many different projects that
Yeah.
that didn't register, but that was a good one. The fact that you changed a U-joint on the side of the road with a jack handle and probably a socket or whatever,
Oh, yeah.
as far as beating on
I
it.
still have the handle. It's beat to death over there.
Yeah. That was pretty fun, except for the fact that our wives were not super happy.
They're
about it.
ready to kill us. Almost did, but that's probably some of the better stories we have. I'm sure there's like a million we could think of, but I just wanted to get a little story time in here with Hotrodhoarder while he was at my house. We've had a very interesting history with car stuff, and we've been friends now for like 18 years.
Yeah, getting close to 20 years. That makes me feel old.
So there was 18 years before, and now there's been 18 years since.
Yeah.
But we've always been really good buds and love the car stuff, and we like the exact same stuff basically. So we always know that we can send each other pictures of some car or some video or something, and we know exactly what each other likes because we like the same cars. But thanks for tuning in again. We'll have more story time to come, but that's all for now with Hotrodhoarder. Go check out his channel. It sucks. I mean.